gentlemen, here we have Kashan Admani, in the on the hot seat with us. Thank you so much, Kashan, for being on the other side with Fariha and Talat. As you know, this session is, it's all about karma, and this is karma, and we will talk about that. But to start off with, my first question to you, Kashan, is around your journey. So maybe in a nutshell, talk to us a little bit about how you got into first music, and then, what happened, and your first foray into film production. How did this happen? So talk to us a little bit about your journey. Over to you.
Thank you, Talat and Fariha, for inviting me to this show. It's a pleasure to be here. Actually, my journey has been, it's been a very long journey, actually. So, I started off when I was a kid. I used to play the keyboard in school. I had a school band, and, like every musician does have a school band, and, you have friends you play music with. And that's how I got into music. And, in my school days, I used to think this is all that I want to do in my life. I don't really want to, pursue a 9-to-5 career, or, be a business graduate, or do stuff like that. So I sort of always wanted to be an artist, a musician, and I had that ability, I had that talent. And, luckily I was able to find the right people who helped me in my career. And also I got to work with a lot of the famous, Pakistani artists during my career. So I started off as a keyboard player, and I switched on to guitars when I was in grade 8, I think. And after that, I sort of started, finding, like when I got through school, I started looking for gigs and, work related to music. So we formed an underground band with some school friends, and we started doing performances. And then I got in touch with a band that introduced me to a studio, and I started my studio recording career from that point. And I started doing guitar sessions, and, people found that I was, really good at playing guitars, and they would ask me to play guitars on their albums and songs. And then later on, I got into producing music, because I used to program really nice drums, and I would arrange music. I would play the bass myself, and, put together like the whole arrangement. And I started composing a lot. So I would write songs for people. And that was the initial stage of my music career, I'd say. And when I started doing that, I sort of felt that, this is something that I'm very, very, good at in terms of production and sound. And I used to, in those days, we didn't have the internet. So, there wasn't any YouTube to learn stuff from. So my only resource for learning was these technology magazines like Sound and Sound and all these other magazines, because we didn't have like any formal education in music or sound or anything like that. So all I learned was from, reading and applying techniques in the studio, and, learning from experience, and hearing about things from other musicians and engineers and artists, and then applying and, trying to make things work. And the only thing that I would like to add here is that I was very fortunate to sort of have had the opportunity to work with a lot of like famous mainstream Pakistani artists in those days. For me as a kid in that time, like this, I'm talking about like 25 years back, 23 years back. So this was like, really a lot of like encouragement, because when you're playing with mainstream artists who are much older than you, and you're doing stuff for them, it's very, very, sort of satisfying that your talent is at that level, that, they want you to be a part of their projects and their songs and their recordings. So from that point on, I'd already formed my own band, Mizmar, and we started recording our album. And, the funny story is that for my album recording, we couldn't afford studio time in those days. So my deal with the studio was, and I'm very grateful to a very dear friend and mentor, Bunny, who had an amazing studio in Karachi. It was a state-of-the-art studio, the only studio which had 3 recording formats. They had the analog recording system, they had the digital recording system, and then later on the nonlinear computer-based recording system. So I was fortunate to get a deal which was, too good to be true. He just wanted me to play guitars on his songs and produce stuff for him, like ads and stuff. and I'd get studio time in return for that. And that's how we recorded our first album. So, I recorded my first album. We started making videos. There were some really dear friends of ours who helped us make videos, who funded our videos, music videos. And, Indus Music also made a video for us. And then these friends of ours, they invested in our videos. And we got an album together, and then we got a record deal. So once that happened, we were a mainstream band. And then after the first album, we got signed to, so my company, I'd already started my production company by then. And I established my studio, Dream Station, back in 2005. And that's when I struck a deal with Universal Music India, where I would, produce music for them. And I also released my own band's album with them. Plus I also, produced other bands, and I took them to India and promoted them with Universal Music. So I was doing their A&R and also their music production and arrangement and all that. So that was great. But then after the Mumbai attacks in 2008, things got a little shaky between India and Pakistan, and then I couldn't sort of pursue that. And then I moved towards, doing music for TV commercials. And so my career has been like, I've just tried to make it as concise as possible, but it's like a long journey. So I'm just trying to, give you a quick overview. So basically, after that, I started doing TV commercials, music for TV commercials, and performances and all that were also ongoing with the band out here in Pakistan and here and there. But then I got totally focused into production. I was like on production. I wanted to just then produce more. And then at that time, a lot of artists were coming to me, like mainstream artists. I was friends with people like Haroon, Najm Shiraz. These guys were all like very, they were working with me at that time. I was doing a lot of their work. Also, I was doing, stuff like I produced Usman Riaz's album. I produced an artist, Alia Chinoy, Wraith, there were too many artists that I was working with at that time. And, that was sort of very fulfilling because as a creative artist, when you get to work on a lot of projects and you're doing a lot of songs and music, it really, really sort of satisfies you in terms of, your achievement. And obviously that skill set I had developed over, these few years, like over a decade of producing and arranging music. And also I was, because of my international exposure, I was getting connected to a lot of musicians all over the world, engineers, and I was learning a lot of stuff. And then obviously YouTube came, and we got to know and learn a lot from that also. And then I got, really interested in music video making. So I'll tell you why that happened was because, I'm the sort of person who does not settle for less than a perfect, a piece of art. So I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to, putting something together. So my problem was that when I was working with these video directors as an artist, I always found that, they were never able to depict or create the kind of video that I had in mind, the kind of visual that I had in mind. And I used to be inspired by a lot of 70s and 80s and then 90s rock. And when I used to see a video like November Rain, and I would be like, why can't we do this out here? So for me, that was, something that always intrigued me. And then I thought, I should start learning this craft. And then maybe I can do stuff for myself at least. And that was how it all started. And I, initially got hold of a DSLR camera and started filming stuff and making stuff. And then I thought that, because of my musical ability, I had a better sort of understanding of editing because all my edits would be very time-wise, very interesting.